Welcome back to the beautiful gamepad here on the Lithium Project channel. And we're doing something not a little bit different, but for the next couple of games, I was doing a little bit of research last night, and on the last installment, I asked the question, I was like, how many Game Boy games, like football Game Boy games, actually are there? And there's quite a few. And as is going to be the case with, you know, quite a lot of these games we do, there's a lot of FIFA. A lot of FIFA. And I figured what might be a smart thing to do is to try and just kind of lump a bunch of those um, over the course of like a couple of videos, a couple of sessions, so then kind of get them out of the way. Because like, there's probably no point me doing FIFA 96 for the Game Boy now, and then FIFA 97 for the Game Boy 30 videos down the line. Because they're probably going to be kind of interchangeable. So it's probably easier if I just kind of do them one after the other while they're fresh in the memory. See if there's any little tweaks, see if there's anything that I can see in terms of improvement, and then, you know, like make a decision based off of that there. So with that said, the plan, as you can see from the ranking sheet here, we have FIFA International Soccer, FIFA Soccer 96, FIFA Soccer 97, and FIFA Rose to the World Cup 98, all for the Game Boy. 2 by Probe Entertainment and 2 by Teartex Design Studios. Probe, I know, mostly because they did the Die Hard trilogy for the PS1, which I mostly played through the Demo 1 disc that appeared on. And so it's a real nostalgic blast from the past whenever I see Probe software, Probe Entertainment pop up anywhere. Yeah, these are all probably very, very short videos. Like, I can't imagine any of these will go longer than 10 to 15 minutes. But just to give a little bit of context for what the next couple of ones will be like. So with that said, let's play some FIFA International Soccer. Just in case you weren't aware, this is Probe. Not quite the same as Kasabian or whatever else you'd be hearing in a kind of modern day context, but look, it's music. What do we have for options? Hong Kong feels like a bit of a pull. Iraq, Israel, Coast, Japan, Luxembourg. How'd you get in here? I mean, I might as well be my boys. I versus Wales, yeah, that seems like a solid matchup. I'll put offsides on. Grass and artificial. Are there differences between them? Is it just purely aesthetics? I doubt it. This is Game Boy. We're not going to be doing too much in terms of colour. We'll go grass anyway. What do we have weather-wise, actually? Drenched hot. I'm curious what drenched looks like. Is it just that the ball moves slower? Is there actual rain? We'll go damp and see, I guess. We've got tournament playoffs, league, store, a demo. That's, you know, it's fairly comprehensive. My name is Bill Brown, and you're watching EA Sports. Welcome to a sold-out game between the Republic of Ireland and Wales. I mean, all areas, especially in goal. That's a fucking lie. There's a solid long ball attack down the wings, blocked by a tight zone of defense with a limited no. I mean, this will probably be all the coverage. Team coverage, team strategy, team formation. You know, it's not just like start the game and off you go. There's a bit in here. Do I want the incredibly hard to decipher tails or the incredibly hard to decipher heads? Yeah, we'll go from the left. Left to right. Whoa, already. This is not great. So obviously this is OG FIFA. So we are using the isometric approach. But oh my god, if I thought Soccer Mania was rough. I'd like to think that, you know, my PC could run this at 60 FPS if this game would run at that. Okay, we're making a run for it. We were making a run for it. Alright, we got slide tackles. The crowd, which just seems to be made up of a giant coal pit. I apologize for any banging that appears in this video, as my neighbors have decided they wanted to strip their entire flat out and redo it. So it's been one of those weeks, but I'm committed to getting at least one video out a day again. So needs must. It's so interesting, you know, there's a deep dive that could be done on the FIFA series, and I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. But like original FIFA International Soccer in '93, Rippin. I was there. I was at the time playing that. I remember I'd go to my grandparents' house every other weekend, and my uncle had a Mega Drive, and he had a copy of FIFA International Soccer. Um, I also had a Mega Drive, but I actually had one of the NHL games, which I really greatly enjoyed. Like the EA output on the Mega Drive is really solid. So we'd play like a bunch of this, and it's, you know, like I remember the first time that I played a FIFA game that didn't use this like isometric um, viewpoint, and it was so weird. And now, obviously, you know, you wouldn't think anything else. And I feel like there's room for someone to come along and provide like you know, I say that like football games have been in such a weird space for, man, I'm getting absolutely pummeled here. Football games have been such a weird space for the longest time, because, you know, we're down to very few options. Um, but with the sort of level of spiritual successes, or the amount of spiritual successes we're at, the idea of doing one kind of specifically based off of this era of FIFA with the isometric thing, I think there's some interesting stuff you could do with that. Like, I'm really hoping Rematch, which is the Sifu developers, Slow Clap, I believe they're called. I'm really hoping that that takes off, and I played the beta that came out. A video available on this channel to if you want to see what that looks like. I'm really hoping that finds an audience. Now, obviously, it's aping more on the kind of Rocket League type of gameplay and flow, but it'd be great to have. It's actually, this game's, I think, the most unplayable thing we've played so far. Um, the frame rate being what it is just makes it impossible to know like where you're running, when you've stopped running. That was excruciating. Only another half to go. So it'd be great. It'd be great if we could get like a spiritual successor to this era of FIFA. Um, and I've seen some attempts to do like kind of modern style football games. There was one. I was at Pocket Gamer Connects in London in January, and there was an indie developer doing like their own take on football, and I think had a slightly more kind of like arcadey vibe to it. Um, think of like the WWE All Stars game, like that, but in FIFA form. I think it's the best way I can describe it. Keepers, you literally said at the start that my keeper was solid, and here we are. It's a massive arrow. I'm trying to run with the ball, and I lose the ball, even though there's no one around me. You know, I was saying in the last video about trying to this is my worst performance so far, and I'm not taking the blame for it. Um, I was saying in the last video with Soccer Mania about trying to always at least have the angle, the approach of like, okay, think of the game in the context of the time, and if possible, grade it somewhat on that curve. But even at my most lenient, this is the worst thing we've played so far. And I guess that does sort of make it interesting because now we have three more games to come afterwards that I'm pretty sure all use like the same isometric perspective. So what's going to be interesting is to see has the frame rate and the performance improved at all, um, and by proxy, like does it control? Because this just it barely controls. Because things like the presentation, the graphics, and whatnot, I'm not fussed about that when it comes to like a Game Boy game, because you know. And I think if this game was able to run at a functioning play frame rate, I would have an issue. Um, I think for a Game Boy game, there's a bit of animation with the sprites. Everything is clearly readable. Like there's no real issue there, but otherwise, and it'd be nice if there was like a timer somewhere as well. I think this is the first time we've had a game where there's no timer, and maybe that's just like a memory thing, possibly. Interesting, there's no sound as well. Even Soccer Mania had one track on a loop, which I expect. What that's kind of the most you can expect for, but at least that had a song. But then maybe like keeping it authentic to the core game, which didn't have music playing. So maybe they felt that was like the right way to go. But even having, I suppose if I pause, okay, so I can see if I pause it, which. Honestly, I can't think of a football game I've played where I've had less of the ball because whenever I touch the ball, it just sort of like disappears out of my hand. I don't know if I'm meant to be like holding down a button while I have the ball to like lock it onto my player. I mean, B just does a slide tackle. A lets me switch between players. So either that or just Ireland were this terrible in 1993. But no, they were in that World Cup. 94, that is. Because you know who wasn't in that World Cup? Yeah, yeah, Wales certainly won that one. Jesus. Man, the crowd goes mild as it looks like a collection of salmon and avocado sushi rolls. And we just have a still frame. Still image. This probably won't come as much of a surprise, but yeah. Yeah. Like as inexcusable as Soccer America International Cup is, um that had a baseline level of functionality to it. Baseline, and even then, but you know, that's yeah, that's the worst thing we've played so far. Yeah, it's crazy as well, and this is kind of a thing with like you'll see with the FIFA games as we go through them. Certainly with like the PlayStation era, like they were making PlayStation One FIFA games up until like 2005. Um, like I'm pretty sure that has to have been that 2005 edition is like the last game on the PlayStation or one of the last ones. And I'd be curious if it's kind of a similar thing here with the Game Boy. You know, like we are. When was the Game Boy Color? 97, 98. Man, that original Game Boy has a long shelf life. Anyway, this is horrendous. Um, I'm really interested to see if they're able to even make baseline improvements to this thing to make it playable. But we'll see, I guess. Yeah. Um, don't play this game. Anyway, we'll leave that there for now. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time for FIFA Soccer 96. Fingers crossed.